Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel event surrounding trends in the health and wellness industry. Obviously, a very, very hot topic right now, given the time of year and also pandemic. So thank you all very much for taking the time to join us here today. We hope you enjoy it. So as a bit of context, off the back of our insight report, which we developed last month, we felt there was no better time than now to have this discussion and take the opportunity to hear from our industry experts. This event is hosted by Dragonfly AI. And for those of you who haven't heard of us, we're an artificial intelligence and neuroscience company. We help brands, retailers, and their agencies test the performance of content across any channel. So I'm Harry, I'm the sales director at Dragonfly AI, and I'll be your host for today. Bit of background on myself. So I've spent the last few years working in artificial intelligence and predictive analytics. Prior to this, I worked agency side in new business and marketing. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Ian, would you like to give a bit of an introduction to yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. My name's Ian. I'm the founder of a company called Scooch, and we provide a platform that enables employers to continuously sponsor all of their staff to move a healthy amount in their everyday lives. So we have an app that processes movement data from the humble smartphone that's in most people's pockets, as well as wearables like the Apple Watch, Fitbits, Garmin devices, etc. And as staff start to physically move, walking, running, cycling, whatever it is that they like to do, they can unlock tangible charity rewards like planting a tree, feeding a village, providing some pills to cure malaria for a life, or training puppies to be guide dogs. Really bespoke reward plans around what the employee and employer culture works best. That's me in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Lewis, would you like to go?
Yes, good morning. I'm Lewis, as it says on my little bio there, the founder and CEO of Hello, which is a new not-for-profit, soon to become a charity, which launched in 2020. We provide a safe space for people of all backgrounds to have a conversation through our phone line and soon some other platforms that we're launching this year. Aside from that, I do a law degree at the University of Durham, and I'm also a public speaker and TEDx speaker as well. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. Sarah?
Yeah, hi everyone. Great to be here as well. Thank you for inviting me. I am a chair for Vistage. I'm an executive coach and business mentor, and my health and wellness is tested daily by having a mad dog and two very annoying teenage boys.
Thank you very much. And finally, Jason.
Thanks so much, Harry. Great to be here. Kind of apt I go last because I'm Irish, so Paddy last is always the best. I'm the Director of Wellbeing and Leadership for WorkIt. I'm a psychotherapist of about 28 years. I'm a coach and a best-selling author. WorkIt is an employee benefits provider. We're a leading employee benefits provider. And we provide things such as lifestyle support, learning, employee recognition. But really, in the last year, I've seen a huge uptake in our wellbeing app, Power, which stands for Positive Occupational Wellbeing Resources. And we've launched to about, I think it's 80 extra companies in the last year. We've just put in a Move module to support the activity we're seeing in relation to people struggling with their exercise. We also support the NHS by 30 NHS trusts who have had obviously a very difficult time in the last year. And we've seen lots of action there, which I'll probably talk about a little bit later on. And we support the British Medical Association and British Medical Journal.
Thank you all very much. Okay. So getting right into it, I would like to pose a first conversation topic to our panel. What are the current trends that you're seeing within your industries right now? And what implications do you think this has on our economy?
I'd like to start off with this. Thanks, Harry. Before we even talk about the trends, I think we just need to contextualise the fact that the UK economy has lost over 90 billion pounds, and that was in 2019 as a result of ill health. So it's a really, really important topic, and particularly I think 3/4 of that productivity loss is attributed to factors such as poor mental health, which we know is on the increase as a result of COVID, but also unhealthy lifestyle choices. So redressing and improving this productivity loss, it's an imperative for UK businesses. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from the other panelists who are obviously, have products and services in place that are redressing that issue. So yeah, that's my starter for 10 before we even get into the trends is just saying it is a serious issue.
We can't get away from the impact that COVID has had. I mean, if you think back before 2019, we never heard this word COVID. Now we can't get rid of this word COVID, but of course one day we will. Certainly from the well-being side, if I look at the type of things that we're seeing in the last year in terms of supporting organizations, both digitally, but also with workshops and various other things, there's some good stuff and not so good stuff, I have to say. So there's been a much greater focus on well-being across the board. So that's the good stuff. You know, having done this for many, many years, it's great to see it's genuinely on the agenda and people are genuinely talking about it. And there's a much higher need we can see from employees working from home to be in contact, so leaders to be in contact with their people, and for businesses to be showing much more consideration and understanding of people's lives now, you know, showing much more empathy in relation to working from home. On the not so great side, I have to say, we've seen much more challenging engagement with technology. So, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. I think Ian's going to talk to that a bit in terms of, you know, the pros and cons of technology. But we're overusing meeting platforms is a big trend, right? So it seems like every meeting is kind of online, and we're underusing voice calls, for example. So that's actually starting to take a real toll on people's mental health and fatigue. One of the things that's come up considerably is time structuring. So business is really trying to help people structure their time at home because they're forgetting to take breaks and stuff like that. And finally, really, for my part, just the real need for good comms, good consistent comms from businesses to help alleviate some of the anxiety around COVID, talk about the strategies around reopening. Job security is a big one that we're seeing. People are very worried. Financial issues, of course, are coming up, which is obvious. And then, of course, the ability to work from home when things open up again. And finally, a big topic, obviously, is supporting parents at home. That's been a real trend. Very, very difficult with the schools closed.
Maybe I can just step in and add a few words to what has already been said. But from our side of things, we see movement data all the time. And since COVID, or particularly when COVID lockdown hits, we're seeing movement levels across work populations dive significantly. There was a report out from Fitbit a couple of years ago that said in San Francisco, when it rains, the amount of physical movement drops 30%. Well, we're seeing things like people not even reaching 2,000 steps a day when they're working from home because they're just channeled in at their desk, or the sort of problem side of things. But on the positive side of things, I think it's been a real wake-up call for employers who think that sort of a gym benefit, which is taken up by a very small minority of the already active portion of the workforce, is a solution that's going to be really long-term and sort of change the game, because it definitely is worth supporting very physically active people, but it's more of a requirement now to look at a way of flexibly supporting the majority of these people who are working in all sorts of different formats and also different places.
We've seen some fantastic points that have just been raised there. From our perspective at Hello, we're seeing it from the sort of beneficiary service user side rather than the corporate side. Of course, we do engage with corporates in our work, but we get thousands of calls a month now from people wanting a conversation. And as your question alluded to, sort of financial implications of COVID are going to be really, really stark in certain communities of the UK more than others. But we are starting to see a dramatic increase in the number of callers that have just wanted to chat about their financial sort of situations, and we are not trained to deal with that. So we have partners like the Citizens Advice Bureau, for example, who we work with to sort of cross-refer people. But financial implications of COVID are going to be one of many that I think we're going to have to turn our attention to.
So how have organisations had to pivot to support wellbeing within their business?
So I'll take that, Harry. The answer is that they've had to pivot very quickly. Nobody was expecting this at all. So, and they have. I have to say that they've adapted really, really well for the most part, dealing with all these kind of very unusual challenges. What I've found in the industry over the last year, because it's coming up to about a year in March since COVID really hit, is companies can't just rely on traditional EAP, employee assistance programs. So most companies would have maybe an EAP in place, but EAP is quite reactive. And I remember being on a call last year with the Chief Medical Director of Bupa, and he said the 90% of the face-to-face sessions dropped. Now that made sense because people didn't want to go out and be in person with a counsellor. But it's great to hear what Lewis is saying in terms of the uplift of people making phone calls, because what he noticed as well is there was a 50% uplift in phone calls. Now, we've got to put that in context, though, in relation to EAP. Traditionally, it's only a 2 to 4% uptake in any organization of EAP. So that's very low anyway. So what companies and businesses have had to do very quickly is being much more proactive in terms of getting well-being to the employees at home. So what we've seen, certainly through our platform and many other platforms, is the rise in digital well-being support. Because nearly everybody has an iPhone or a laptop. So getting some digital support on there, which they have a big focus on it being very, very practical. And again, I think Ian was talking about, that getting people to be physical. So we saw a 60% drop in exercise in the very first lockdown. So the trend there is towards digital well-being, making it practical for everybody to access it at home, get it on the agenda. That's one of the nice things that we've seen in what's happening with COVID, that it's businesses are actually really talking about it and starting to invest in it, starting to talk openly about it, because that's always been a challenge with mental health well-being. And that's the good stuff that we're starting to see peter in through till in 2021.
Yeah, could I just add as well, Jason, to that point, that I think, yes, people are talking about certainly mental health in the workplace more openly. But again, a survey done just pre-COVID with business leaders in the UK, over 90% of them admitted to still having a sense of unease and treating employees with a certain stigma. I was absolutely amazed that it was still that high. So I still think there's a long way to go. And I think one of the plus sides of COVID is that we are much more open to talking about our mental well-being, and hopefully that stigma and that percentage will be declining.
I was going to just add that we've seen with the pandemic the increase of home working, which was also another buzzword like pivot, that we've seen a lot of. Work from home has become the new norm. And we've seen this line being blurred quite significantly between what constitutes work and what constitutes leisure and just chilling out at home. So I think I've certainly seen an increase in corporates wanting to really try and make that distinction clear between work time and home time, because obviously when you left the office in traditional offices, you'd go home and that would be your time to relax. But that line is, as I say, becoming increasingly blurred. And the final point to make is I think corporates are becoming a lot more proactive, as Jason and Sarah said. We've seen a lot of corporates engage with us through corporate volunteering. So real tangible way to support a good cause with a couple of hours a week of their time. And that's been great to connect with their staff. We have them in like a little subgroup on WhatsApp and so they keep connected, but also contribute as well.